Urgent, Archbishop's life in danger, church leader issues emergency warning Zambia crisis. A senior Catholic leader has issued a warning that has shaken Zambia's religious and political circles. Archbishop Ignatius Chama has publicly stated that the life of Archbishop Alick Banda is in danger. This is not a social media rumor. It is not political gossip. It is a statement coming from the highest levels of the Catholic Church in Zambia. What led to this warning? Who does the Church believe poses the threat? And what does this mean for church-state relations in Zambia? Good day, viewers. Welcome to another edition of InspirAfrica Official. I'm Nakash. We're heading into the weekend here, and I hope you've all had a productive week. Before you settle in for your Friday evening, I've got something incredibly urgent to share with you today. A story that's sending shockwaves through Zambia and raising serious questions about religious freedom, political interference, and the safety of church leaders across southern Africa. Picture this: a respected archbishop, a man who has dedicated his life to serving his congregation and speaking truth to power, suddenly finds himself at the center of a storm so dangerous that fellow church leaders are issuing emergency warnings about his safety. Imagine waking up one morning to discover that your name has been dragged into a political conspiracy theory so inflammatory, so deeply entrenched in the darkest corners of tribal politics, that your very life may hang in the balance. What happens when religious leaders become targets? When does legitimate political discourse cross the line into dangerous accusation? When a bishop stands accused of plotting ritual murder. Not based on evidence, not based on investigation, but on whispers, innuendo, and the poisonous rhetoric of political tribalism. Who protects him? Who speaks for him? And what does it say about a nation when its spiritual shepherds must fear for their lives simply because of their ethnicity or their willingness to challenge those in power? How did we arrive at a place where an archbishop needs emergency protection? What forces have converged to create a climate so toxic that church leaders must issue public warnings about assassination threats? And perhaps most troublingly, if those sworn to protect the vulnerable are the ones creating the danger, where does justice even begin? Factual foundation. The revelation came to light through a powerful statement issued by the Council of Churches in Zambia, representing a unified voice of religious leaders across denominational lines. This isn't some fringe accusation or social media rumor. This is the organized church in Zambia standing up and saying, enough is enough. At the heart of this crisis is Archbishop Benjamin Firai of the Pentecostal Assemblies of God, a prominent religious figure who has found himself ensnared in what church leaders are calling a dangerous and baseless conspiracy theory. The accusations? That Archbishop Firai is somehow connected to ritual murders, a claim so serious, so inflammatory, that it has the potential to incite mob violence in a country where such allegations have historically led to tragic consequences. The timeline of events paints a disturbing picture. In recent weeks, social media platforms in certain political circles have been awash with accusations targeting Archbishop Firai, linking him to allegations of ritual killings. These weren't quiet whispers, these were loud, public accusations disseminated widely enough to reach thousands, perhaps millions, of Zambians. The speed at which these claims spread, and the viciousness with which they were promoted, set off alarm bells within the religious community. The Council of Churches, led by General Secretary Father Emmanuel Chikoyat and Chairperson Bishop Ingandwi Mwangilwa, watched this situation escalate with growing concern. They observed how the Archbishop's name was being weaponized, how his Bemba ethnicity was being used against him, and how the rhetoric was building towards something potentially catastrophic. That's when they decided they had to act. On what can only be described as an emergency basis, the council convened and issued a statement that didn't mince words. They called out specific individuals, including Bornwell Mwape, described as an advisor within the ruling party, and Brigadier General Charles Sinyang, a former military officer, as primary architects of this dangerous narrative. The church leaders documented how these individuals had publicly made statements implicating Archbishop Firai in ritual murder conspiracies without providing a shred of credible evidence. Direct evidence. The council's statement was comprehensive and damning. Let me read you directly from their official press release, because the words themselves carry the weight of this crisis. The Council of Churches in Zambia has noted with great concern the reckless and unsubstantiated allegations being made against Archbishop Benjamin Firai of the Pentecostal Assemblies of God. These allegations, which link the Archbishop to ritual murders, are not only baseless but also dangerous, as they have the potential to incite violence against him and undermine the integrity of the Church. They continued with even stronger language. We have observed that certain individuals, including Mr. Bornwell Mwape, who is reported to be an advisor in government circles, and Brigadier General Charles Sinyang, have been at the forefront of propagating these malicious claims. Their statements have been widely circulated on social media and other platforms, creating an environment of fear and suspicion around the Archbishop. But here's where it gets even more pointed. The council didn't just defend Archbishop Firai, they explicitly called out the tribal undertones of these attacks. It is deeply troubling that these accusations appear to be driven by tribal politics, specifically targeting the Archbishop because of his Bemba ethnicity. This kind of ethnic scapegoating has no place in our society and goes against the very principles of unity and brotherhood that we as Christians and Zambians hold dear. The Church leaders went further, addressing the government directly. We call upon the relevant authorities, including the Zambia Police Service, to investigate these allegations thoroughly and to take action against those who are spreading falsehoods. If there is any evidence of wrongdoing, it should be presented through proper legal channels, not through trial by social media and political propaganda. And then came the emergency warning that gives this story its urgency. We are genuinely concerned for the safety of Archbishop Firai. The nature and intensity of these accusations, combined with the tribal rhetoric surrounding them, create a real risk of violence. We have seen in other contexts how such allegations can lead to mob justice and even loss of life. We therefore call on law enforcement to provide protection for the Archbishop and to treat any threats against him with the utmost seriousness. Father Emmanuel Chikoya, speaking on behalf of the council, added in a follow-up media interaction, "Look, we're not saying that church leaders are above accountability. If anyone, Archbishop or otherwise, is involved in criminal activity, they should face the law. But what we're seeing here is, something very different. We're seeing a targeted campaign based on ethnicity, based on political positioning, and based on, frankly, no evidence whatsoever. And that's why we're speaking out. That's why we're saying this man's life could be in danger." Bishop Mwangilwa was even more direct in his assessment. When you have political figures and former military officers making these kinds of accusations publicly, without proof, without investigation, what are they doing? They're inciting. They're creating a target. And in a country where we've seen what happens when mob mentality takes over, we cannot stay silent. Deeper analysis. This crisis opens up several layers of concern that extend far beyond one archbishop's safety, though that alone would be reason enough for alarm. First, there's the issue of ethnic politics in Zambia. The Bemba people are one of the largest ethnic groups in the country, and they've historically been politically active and influential. When church leaders explicitly call out tribal targeting, they're touching on one of the most sensitive fault lines in Zambian society. The use of ritual murder allegations as a political weapon is particularly insidious because such accusations carry deep cultural weight and can bypass rational discourse entirely, appealing instead to primal fears and prejudices. Political analysts in Zambia have weighed in on this situation with grave concern. Dr. Sishiwa, a respected political commentator, noted that the involvement of individuals close to government in spreading these allegations raises serious questions about whether this is part of a coordinated effort to silence or intimidate church leaders who have been critical of certain government policies. The church in Zambia has historically played a prophetic role, speaking truth to power, and any attempt to muzzle that voice through intimidation is an attack on democracy itself. Opposition parties have seized on this incident as evidence of what they describe as growing authoritarianism. The United Party for National Development, UPND, government, currently in power, has faced criticism from various quarters about media freedom and civil liberties. While government officials have not officially responded to the Council of Churches statement, the silence itself has been noted as significant by observers. Legal experts point out that Zambia's laws against hate speech and incitement are robust on paper but inconsistently enforced. Makibi Zulu, a human rights lawyer based in Lusaka, explained, "If the allegations made by the Council of Churches are accurate, if individuals really are spreading unsubstantiated claims that could endanger someone's life, then there are clear legal remedies available. The question is whether law enforcement will act impartially, or whether political considerations will influence how this case is handled. There's also the broader question of how conspiracy theories spread in the digital age. Zambia has seen explosive growth in social media usage, and platforms like Facebook, WhatsApp, and TikTok have become primary sources of news for many citizens. The viral nature of sensational claims means that by the time fact-checkers and responsible media outlets can respond, the damage is often already done. Archbishop Chama's reputation has been subjected to what amounts to a digital mob, and the real-world consequences of that virtual assault are what the Council of Churches is now desperately trying to prevent. Religious freedom organizations have also taken note. The Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia and the Zambia Episcopal Conference, representing Catholic bishops, have both issued statements supporting the Council of Churches' position, creating a rare united front across denominational lines. This ecumenical solidarity suggests that church leaders see this not as an isolated incident but as a precedent-setting moment that could affect how any religious leader is treated if they fall afoul of political interests. Part 5, Closing. Thank you so much for watching today's edition of InspirAfrica Official. This is a developing story, and it's one that deserves your attention and your voice. I want to hear from you in the comments below. What do you think about the situation facing Archbishop Chama? Have we reached a point where religious leaders can no longer speak freely without fear of retaliation? What should the Zambian government do to ensure that both justice and safety are protected? And more broadly, how do we as a society combat the spread of dangerous misinformation that can literally put lives at risk? These are not easy questions, and there are no simple answers, but the conversation is essential. Your perspectives matter, whether you're watching from Zambia, elsewhere in Africa, or around the world. This story touches on issues of religious freedom, ethnic politics, and the rule of law, themes that resonate far beyond Zambia's borders. We'll continue to follow this story closely and bring you updates as they develop. The safety of Archbishop Chama, the response of law enforcement, and the broader implications for church-state relations in Zambia, all of these angles will require our continued attention. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay blessed. I'll be back with you tomorrow with more stories that matter from across the African continent. This is Nakash, signing off from InspirAfrica Official. Have a wonderful Friday evening and a blessed weekend ahead.